The power went out at 9:17 p.m. Not a flicker, not a sputter. 1 second, the living room was lit by the TV's blue glow. The next, it was just black, thick, swallowing black, like someone had draped a blanket over the whole house and tucked the edges under the doors. Outside, the storm had been building for hours. The kind that doesn't just rain, it presses. Wind slamming branches against siding, thunder rolling so deep it makes your teeth buzz, sheets of water hissing off the roof like the house is boiling. I sat very still on the couch, remote in my hand, listening to my own breathing. Then the lightning hit, and the world flashed white through the windows. For half a second, I saw my living room frozen in that harsh, perfect light. The coffee table cluttered with junk mail, my throw blanket half off the armrest, the hallway yawning like a throat. And in that flash, I saw something else. A smear of wet on the hardwood floor near the front door. It vanished when the darkness snapped back. But my stomach didn't get the memo. My heart was already climbing my ribs, banging like it wanted out. I told myself it was nothing. The dog's water bowl. Condensation. My imagination getting brave because the lights had turned off. I stood slowly, like quick movements might make the house angry. The only light now was lightning, arriving in quick, irregular bursts, and the faint green LED of the smoke detector blinking in the hallway. I stepped toward the front door. The air smelled different. Not just the usual, laundry detergent, the candle I'd burned earlier. There was something sharper underneath it. Cold rain? But the front door was closed, locked. I knew it was locked because I was alone and my habits were paranoid even on calm nights. I jiggled the knob anyway. Locked. Solid. Lightning flashed again. There were wet footprints on the floor. Bare feet, not shoes. Long toes. A shallow heel. And they weren't coming from the door like someone had tracked rain in. They were going to it. Like someone had been standing inside my house, wet to the ankles, and then walked out. The storm boomed so loud it rattled a picture frame, and I flinched hard enough to pull a muscle in my neck. I backed up, eyes glued to the floor, trying to count the prints. They ended at the base of the door. I stared at the deadbolt, at the chain latch, at the edge of the door where it met the frame. Nothing moved, no handle turning, no draft, no shifting shadow. Just the storm screaming outside like it was trying to get in. I grabbed my phone from the couch. No service, of course. Of course, because storms don't just kill power, they kill the tiny comforts too. I turn on my flashlight and the cone of light cut through the dark, catching dust motes and making the wet prints shine like oil. I follow them again, slower this time, and my skin prickled when I realized something else. The prints were spaced oddly, too close together, like whoever made them was walking carefully. Measured, quiet, not drunk, not hurried, sneaking. My flashlight trembled. "Hello?" I called, and my voice sounded small, swallowed by the house. "If someone's in here, I'm calling the cops." A lie, a stupid, loud lie. The storm answered for me with a crack of thunder that made the windows vibrate in their frames. I kept the flashlight pointed at the hallway and tried to breathe like I wasn't about to ruin my own life with panic. I stepped toward the kitchen because the kitchen had knives and because I didn't know what else to do. My bare feet made soft slaps on the tile. Every sound I made seemed amplified, like the house was keeping score. I reached the knife block, pulled out the biggest one, and immediately felt ridiculous. Some suburban horror movie extra. Still, my fingers tightened around the handle like it mattered. I turned back toward the living room. Lightning. In the flash, I saw the back door standing slightly open. Not wide, not obviously. Just enough that the thin line of stormlight cut in, a bright blade slicing through the dark. My mouth went dry. I never leave that door open. Never. It's got a stubborn latch that sticks, and I have to pull it hard to shut it all the way. And now, in the quiet between thunder, I could hear it. A faint tapping, not on glass, on wood, slow, patient, like fingernails testing the surface. I aimed my flashlight at the back door. The beam hit the gap, and the sliver of outside became a sharp, trembling line of rain and blackness. The tapping stopped. I didn't move, didn't blink. The storm shoved a gust against the door, and it creaked wider by an inch. Rain scent rolled into my kitchen, cold and metallic. My flashlight beam shook so badly, it made the edges of the door blur. "Who's there?" I whispered, because my voice wouldn't get loud anymore. Nothing. Then a new sound, soft and wet, like someone shifting weight on a soaked rug. The beam lowered, drawn by instinct to the floor. There were more footprints, fresh ones, glossy and black with water, appearing on the tile just inside the doorway. But the door hadn't moved enough for a person to come in. Lightning flashed again, brighter, and for that blink of time, the whole kitchen sharpened. The back door stood open wider now, and in the gap, I saw a hand, not a whole person. Just fingers curling around the edge of the doorframe, pale and slick, knuckles white with pressure. The fingers were too long, the nails too clean, like they belonged to someone who didn't work with their hands. The hand was inside the line of my flashlight. I made a sound I didn't recognize, half gasp, half choking laugh, and stumbled backward, knife held out like it was a shield. The fingers withdrew instantly, vanishing into the storm dark. The door swung shut with a soft click, not slammed by wind, pulled closed, and then latched from the outside. My brain tried to reject what my eyes had just reported. It tried to file it under wind and panic and shadows. But my body believed it. My body was already sweating cold. I ran to the door and yanked at the handle. It didn't budge. The stubborn latch, my stubborn latch, was engaged. I was locked in. A thud came from the living room. Not loud, not dramatic. Just the sound of something being set down gently. I turned my flashlight that way, knife shaking in my other hand, and took one step, then another, moving like a person underwater. The living room was a cavern. The only light was my beam and the occasional lightning flash that threw bars of white across the floor. On the coffee table, right where my junk mail had been, there was now a candle. One I hadn't put there. It was the same candle I'd burned earlier, vanilla and cedar, but the lid was off, and a match lay beside it like a tiny bone. The candle wick was blackened, still warm. Someone had lit it recently. A low creak came from the hallway. I snapped my flashlight toward it. Nothing there, but the smoke detector's little green LED blinked. Once, twice. The third blink didn't happen. Instead, it stayed off for a long second, then flickered back on. Like something had passed in front of it. Like a shadow had crossed between the detector and its own tiny light. My throat tightened so hard it felt like I'd swallowed a fist. I backed toward the front door, because the front door was my only exit, and because my brain was screaming, "Leave, leave, leave," even though my body was still trying to understand how I was trapped in my own house. I reached the door. I fumbled for the deadbolt. It wasn't where it should be. The deadbolt was turned halfway. The chain latch hung loose, swaying slightly, like it had been touched. I knew then, with the kind of certainty that makes you cold inside, that someone had been standing behind me at some point, close enough to undo the chain, close enough that if I'd turned around at the wrong moment, a whisper came from upstairs. Not a word I could understand, just a breathy shape of sound, like someone exhaling through a smile. I froze. The upstairs hallway was a black mouth above me. I couldn't see the top of the stairs, only the lower steps disappearing into shadow. Another whisper, this one closer. And then, the softest sound of all, a bare foot on carpet. The storm cracked again, thunder detonating overhead, and the lightning flash showed me the staircase in harsh detail. There was water on the steps, drops, spaced like someone was descending slowly, and on the fourth step from the bottom, there was a footprint. Fresh, wet. My flashlight beam wobbled up the stairs, illuminating each step, each dark smear, and when it reached the top, nothing. No figure, no face, no eyes, just the darkness. Until something moved in it, a slow shift, like a person leaning out of a doorway to watch. I didn't wait to see more. I yanked the front door open so hard it slammed into the wall. Wind and rain tore at me immediately, icy needles in my face. I sprinted onto the porch in socks, nearly slipping on the slick wood, and I stopped, because the porch light was on. It shouldn't have been. The power was out. But there it was, glowing warm and steady above my head, humming softly like nothing in the world had ever gone wrong. I stared at it, rain running down my eyelashes, my knife still clutched in my fist like a stupid, useless thing. Then, I saw the extension cord. It ran from my porch, down the steps, across the lawn, and into the darkness of the yard, threading between trees toward the street where my neighbor's house sat, dark and silent. Except, it wasn't going to my neighbor's house. It disappeared behind the thick trunk of the old oak tree near the curb. And there, half hidden by rain and shadow, was a small generator, running, purring, keeping my porch light on like a beacon. Like someone wanted me to come outside, like someone had planned for me to. I turned back to the open front door. Lightning flashed, and for one sharp instant, I saw into my living room. I saw the candle on the table. I saw the wet footprints. And in the hallway, standing in the darkness where the smoke detector blinked green, I saw a silhouette. Tall, still. Head tilted just slightly, like it was listening. Then the lightning faded, and it was gone again, swallowed by dark. I didn't go back in. I ran off the porch into the storm, slipping and catching myself on wet grass, the generator's purr following me like an insect buzz. I ran down the driveway toward the street, toward any light, any neighbor, any car. Behind me, my porch light stayed on. And then, quiet as a secret, the front door closed, not slammed, not blown shut. Closed gently like someone was tidying up. The porch light clicked off right after. And in the sudden darkness, the storm felt less like weather and more like laughter. The storm showed up like it had a grudge. It started as a soft, steady rain, the kind that sounds like someone lightly tapping a finger on the window. Then, the wind picked up and the taps turned into fingernails, quick and impatient, dragging down the glass. By the time the first real thunder hit, the whole house felt like it was bracing. I was home alone. Not my parents ran to the store, home alone. More like the kind where the sun had already set, my phone was on 12%, and the nearest neighbor was far enough away that if I yelled, the storm would swallow it. I tried to be chill about it. Hoodie, blanket, TV on low. I told myself I liked storms. Then the power flickered. Not fully out, just that quick, sickening blink where everything goes dead for a heartbeat and comes back wrong. The TV stuttered, the lamps dimmed, the microwave clock flashed 12 o'clock like it had been reset by an invisible hand. I stood there staring at the living room, waiting for my heartbeat to slow down. That's when something hit the back door. Not like wind, not like a branch, a solid impact. Once. Then again, softer, like a test. I froze. The back door was glass with blinds. I couldn't see through it unless I walked close, and suddenly the idea of walking close felt like volunteering. I grabbed my phone and lifted it like it could protect me. Nothing outside but rain and darkness, right? Another hit, harder. The blinds shivered. I forced myself to move, keeping my steps quiet, my eyes glued to that door. I reached the edge of the kitchen and leaned just enough to see. The blinds were closed, but one slat near the bottom was bent, angled slightly upward. Something had pushed it. The storm outside flashed white for a second from lightning, and for that split instant, I saw a silhouette on the patio. Not a person standing upright, more like someone crouched low, right up against the glass. Then the lightning died, and it vanished back into black. I couldn't breathe. My mind tried to reject it. Wind, a shadow, a bush, anything. But there's a difference between something and someone. Your body knows it before your brain admits it. My phone had no service, not one bar, not weak signal, none. It just said SOS in the corner, like it was apologizing. I backed away from the door so slowly my legs shook. The storm groaned, the house creaked, and somewhere upstairs, something shifted, like a footstep on carpet. I snapped my head toward the staircase. The upstairs was dark. The hallway light I usually left on was off because I'd been trying to save power. The stairs looked like a mouth. I stood still and listened. There it was again, soft. A drag, like fabric brushing against a wall. I wasn't supposed to be scared of my own house. I moved toward the living room and grabbed the biggest thing I could find without thinking, a metal fireplace poker. In my hands, it felt stupid, like bringing a stick to a gunfight. Another thud from the back door, this time followed by the faintest sound of nails, not claws, nails. Fingers, scraping the frame like someone searching for the latch. My stomach turned cold. I whispered, "Go away," to no one, like the house itself needed to hear it. The scraping stopped. For a moment, I thought maybe it worked. Then my phone buzzed. A notification. No signal, no Wi-Fi, but a notification anyway. Unknown. Airdrop. Let me in. I stared at the screen until my eyes watered. Airdrop only works if someone is close. Like in the driveway close. Like on the patio close. My hands went numb around the poker. The TV popped and the screen went black. Not from power loss, like it was turned off. In the silence, I heard it clearly. A slow, deliberate knock from the front door. 3 taps, not frantic, not angry, polite. Like they knew I was standing right there holding my breath. I didn't move. I couldn't. Another buzz, unknown. Airdrop. I can see you. I spun and looked toward the living room windows. The blinds were half open because I'd been watching the storm earlier. The room behind me was lit dimly by a lamp. and in that reflection, barely like a smear, I saw movement near the glass. Someone standing outside, close enough that their outline warped the wet window. My throat made a sound I didn't recognize, half gasp, half choke. I killed the lamp with a slap, plunging the living room into darkness. The knock at the front door stopped. Everything stopped. Even the storm somehow felt quieter in that moment, like it was holding its breath too. I crept toward the hallway, staying low, trying to think of a plan that wasn't wait here and die. My phone buzzed again, and I almost dropped it. Unknown. Airdrop. Don't turn off the lights. That message did something to me. Not fear. Rage. Like, who was this? Who thought they could stand outside my house and command me? I tightened my grip on the poker and stepped into the hallway. The air felt colder there. The kind of cold that doesn't come from weather, but from absence. Like something had been sitting in the dark for a long time. The upstairs creaked again, one step, then another. Not the random settling of wood, a rhythm. Someone was coming down. Every hair on my arms rose. I raised the poker and backed up until I was pressed against the wall. The stairwell was just a black column. I couldn't see the steps, only the outline. Then a lightning flash lit the whole house for a second, and I saw a shape halfway down the stairs. It wasn't a person I knew. It wasn't even fully human in the way my brain expects. The limbs were too long. The head was tilted in a way that looked curious, like a dog listening. But the worst part, it was smiling. Not a friendly smile. Not even a cruel smile. A smile like it was enjoying how completely still I was. The light died again and it was gone. I didn't wait to confirm it. I ran. Not upstairs, not toward the doors, straight for the bathroom because it was the only room with a lock. I slammed myself inside, turned the lock, and leaned my whole weight against the door. I listened. At first, nothing. Then, soft footsteps in the hall, slow, measured. Like whoever it was wanted me to know they weren't rushing. A hand brushed the outside of the bathroom door. I heard the faint squeak of skin against wood. And then a voice, muffled but close, came through the door. "Don't you recognize me?" It wasn't a normal question. It wasn't said like a stranger trying to calm someone down. It was said like the speaker was offended I didn't already know. My mouth opened, but no words came out. The voice continued, almost playful now. "You looked right at me from the window." My eyes darted to the tiny bathroom window. It faced the side of the house, the one place I couldn't easily see from inside. The storm flashed again and the window lit up. A face filled it, not outside looking in, pressed flat against the glass, like it had been there waiting. The skin was pale and smooth. The eyes were open too wide, unblinking, like it forgot that people blink. Its mouth stretched into that same smile I'd seen on the stairs. And then, as if it was copying me, it raised a hand and mimicked knocking. Tap, tap, tap. On the bathroom window. My whole body locked. I backed away and nearly slipped, grabbing the sink. My phone buzzed again. I looked without meaning to. Unknown airdrop. You can lock one door, not all of them. The doorknob on the bathroom door slowly turned, not yanked, not rattled, just turned gently, as if whoever was on the other side had all the time in the world. I could hear it breathing now, a wet, patient inhale through a smile. Then the knob stopped turning, and something else took its place. The sound of fingernails scratching down the door, starting near the top and sliding to the bottom in one long stroke. Like it was measuring, like it was counting the distance between me and it. I squeezed my eyes shut and tried to think. The bathroom had no other exit, no crawl space, no closet, no ceiling hatch, just me and a locked door. Then I heard a new sound. My own front door opening. Not a crash, not a break. The soft click of it being unlocked. The slow creak as it swung inward. My stomach dropped. Someone else was in my house now, and whoever was at the bathroom door stopped scratching. They were listening too. For a second, even the thing at the window tilted its head like it didn't expect company. Footsteps moved through the living room. Heavy boots, purposeful. A voice called out, low and urgent, "Hello, anyone here?" A real voice, human. Relief hit me so hard I almost cried. I shouted, "I'm in the bathroom, please." I stopped, because the voice downstairs finished its sentence. "Don't move." It wasn't a warning to help me. It was an instruction to something else. The thing at the bathroom door let out a sound that wasn't a laugh, but had the same shape, like air being squeezed through teeth. Then it whispered right through the wood, "Too late." The bathroom light flickered on by itself. I hadn't touched the switch. The mirror over the sink fogged in a spreading bloom, like someone had exhaled onto it from inches away. Letters began to appear in the condensation, not drawn with a finger. Pressed from the other side, like the mirror was thin skin. "We're both in here." My knees gave out. I hit the tile hard, pain shooting up my spine, and the poker clattered away. Behind me, from inside the bathroom, inside the room with me, a voice that matched mine perfectly whispered, "Don't turn around." And the lock on the bathroom door clicked open.